Hey, this is Ken Finnan at Capital Advantage Tutoring. It's my job to get you past the Series 7. So for the Series 7 exam and the SIE exam, you will need to know the difference between Code of Arbitration and Code of Procedure. Not on the level of a lawyer or compliance guy, but enough to know the difference and to know what the differences are. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so the two things, Code of Arbitration versus Code of Procedure. Let's start with Code of Procedure first because that's the fun one, right? The one that you don't deal with a lot, but it is kind of cute. Now, Code of Procedure, Code of Procedure, C-O-P, cop. So who comes after you when you do something wrong? The cops. So this is for when you fuck up, okay? So Code of Procedure is when there's a complaint about something you did, not because you're disputing money, it's because you fucked up, okay? So what they're going to happen is, grandpa's going to file a complaint. It's going to go to the District Business Conduct Committee. Boom, DBCC. I'll put that up there. Now, after that, they file the thing. Great words, legal term thing. It's a legal term. They file it, and you get notified. You have 25 days to respond because they're complaining about you. You're the rep, you're the broker-dealer, whatever it is. You have 25 days to respond. Then if you don't respond, they just give you another 14. Why don't they just give you 39? I have no idea. But you get 25, then you get another 14. If you don't respond by then, it's a default and the grandma wins. Let's say you go, and this is a straight up, you go to the conduct committee, they're looking at it and they make a decision. Say you don't like the decision, say they shoot it against you, say you owe them the grandma money. You can then appeal it. You can appeal it to the National Adjudicatory Council. Such big fucking words. National Adjudicatory Council, the NAC. Now, they make a decision. If you don't like their decision, you go to the SEC. You can appeal it to the SEC. If you don't like that, go out to the courts. Keep suing and keep appealing all the way up, if you can find a way, to the Supreme Court. It can go as high as you want. You can appeal until that point. So the Code of Procedures are when you do something wrong and you're going to get in trouble, but you can appeal it all the way even outside the system. Code of Arbitration is when there is a dispute between two people, whether it's customer and rep, rep and rep, rep and firm, customer and firm, rep and whatever it is. So what happens is it's a way of going around the court system. It's arbitration, what they call binding arbitration. So binding arbitration is where you sit in front of a panel, whether it's one or three people, and you plead your case and they make a decision and that's it. There's no appeal. That's what binding means. It's done. You're in. The reason they did it was supposedly to keep it the cost and time frame down, because going through the court system, we try to do arbitration because it's supposed to be cheaper and more cost effective, which is the same freaking thing, and faster than going through the court system because the court systems can take forever. So we do the arbitration. Now, here's one thing. You're not only people who work in the, whether if you're an agent or a rep, same thing, or you work for a broker-dealer, you are usually signing an pre-dispute arbitration clause, which means you will be bound by arbitration. That's a FINRA rule, and it's run by FINRA. If you're a customer, they can't force you to do it unless, of course, you sign the pre-dispute arbitration clause when you open the account, which most people do because they don't know any better. So if you sign the pre-dispute arbitration clause and you have a problem with a firm or a rep, you have to go through arbitration, binding arbitration. If you didn't sign it, then you can go outside the system and courts and sue and all that. Now, the procedure is this. You file your complaint, not your complaint, but you file your dispute. We don't need the details because they're not going to test on that. But how big the panel is depends on how much money you're doing. So if it's $100,000 or less in the dispute, you'll have one panelist. If it's actually under 50 grand, you'll still have one panelist, but you can do what they call simplified. It's a little cheaper, and everything's by mail. So 0 to 50, one panelist. By mail, not as expensive to do because you have to pay for this stuff. From 50 grand to 100 grand, one panelist, you can have a hearing, and it does cost a couple $1,000s to file it, whatever it is. So that's that. Once it's over 100 grand, it's going to be three panelists. And remember, binding. What they try to do before they get to this point is send you to arbitration. Okay, I'm an idiot. They're sending you to mediation, not arbitration. I guess I was talking too fast. So they send you to mediation, which is not binding. Back to me, which is not binding. So if you read some of the books, they say it's binding because once you sign a contract, then it's binding. But to go in there, it's voluntary mediation. You don't have to do it. And you can walk away at any time if you don't like it. They're not making a decision. And the person doing the mediating cannot be your arbitrator later. So now let's talk about that for a second. So the arbitrators, there's two types. There's industry, which means they work for the firms. They're either lawyers or CCOs, or they just work for in the business for FINRA, or they're lawyers or accountants or whatever it is for Wall Street firms, financial firms. That's industry or non-public. Public arbitrators are just other people who want to do this. Usually they're lawyers, because who else would even think of it? So you're going to have either public or industry, private, okay? So if you're a human being, it's going to always lean public, which means you're going to have, if it's one arbitrator, it's going to be one public arbitrator. If it's three arbitrators, meaning over 100, it's going to be at least two public and one private. And and the process there is you get a list of arbitrators with their bios, and you pick which ones you want. You rank them, and then they try to figure out which ones kind of work out. If hopefully you get two or three that both of you pick, and then there you go. You got your arbitrators. Now, if it's between firm to firm, like JP Morgan fighting Schwab, it's going to be three non-public, private industry arbitrators. If it's over 100 grand, it'll be one if it's under. So if it's two firms with each other, it's not going to be public. It's going to be all private or industry arbitrators. If there's a human being, whether it's a registered rep or a customer, it's going to be at least one in the one, or lean public, if you want to say. So if it's a human being, again, meaning a rep or a customer, it's going to at least lean public. After the arbitrators make a decision, you have to pay whatever it is within 30 days, but there's no appeal. Remember that arbitration is binding, no appeal.